Hi, I'm going to read you the story, A Bad Case of Stripes. It's by David Shannon, which is one of our favorite authors. So this is a story about a girl who really wants to fit in, but she learns a very valuable lesson. Camilla Cream loved lima beans. Now, have you ever heard of lima beans? It's actually one of my mom's favorite vegetables, so I know what it is, but you may have never heard of a lima bean. So think about like a black bean, a kidney bean, in that shape, and a lima bean is like that, but it's green. But she never ate them. All her friends hated lima beans, and she wanted to fit in. Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her. Today she was fretting. I'm gonna pause for a moment. Do you know what fretting means? Think about if you fuss about something or you're worrying. That's what she's doing. She's trying to make this decision and she's fretting and worrying about what to wear. It was the first day of school and she couldn't decide what to wear. There were so many people to impress. So I have my note here to remind me to ask you what the word impress means. So think about what's going on in the story. It's her first day of school. She wants to impress them. Yeah, so think about what other words could make sense. She wants other people to be in awe or inspired by her, right? So she wants people to think good things about her. She tried on 42 outfits. Can you believe it? 42. But none seemed quite right. She put on a pretty red dress and looked in the mirror. Then she screamed. I want you to predict, what could she scream about? Could someone have walked in her room? Was it a surprise? Was it a dress that was ripped? Does it have anything to do with the front cover? Oh, let's find out. Her mother ran into the room and she screams, "Oh my heavens!" She cried, "You're completely covered with stripes." This was certainly true. Camilla was striped from head to toe. She looked like a rainbow. Mrs. Cream felt Camilla's forehead. "Do you feel all right?" she asked. "I feel fine," Camilla answered, "but just look at me." "You get back in bed this instant," her mother ordered. "You're not going to school today." Camilla was relieved. She didn't want to miss the first day of school, but she was afraid of what the other kids would say, and she had no idea what to wear with those crazy stripes. There she is again, worrying about her outfits. I think I might be more worried about why I have stripes on my face. That afternoon, Dr. Bumble came to examine Camilla. "Most extraordinary," he exclaimed. "I've never seen anything like it. Are you having any coughing, sneezing, runny nose, aches, pains, chills, hot flashes, dizziness, drowsiness, shortness of breath, or uncontrollable twitching?" Have you ever heard your doctor ask you those questions? Sounds like normal questions, but I don't think he knows what to do with this. "No," Camilla told him. "I feel fine." "Well then," Dr. Bumble said, turning to Mrs. Cream, "I don't see any reason why she shouldn't go to school tomorrow. Here's some ointment that should help clear up those stripes in a few days. If it doesn't, you know where to reach me." And off he went. Do you think she's going to want to go to school tomorrow? Let's find out. The next day was a disaster. Let me pause for a second. Disaster. What does that mean? Does that mean everything goes right and fine? And no, it's the opposite, right? It's like when everything that could go wrong goes wrong. Something that is not good that happened. Everyone at school laughed at Camilla. They called her Camilla Crayon and Night of the Living Lollipop. She tried her best to act as if everything was normal, but when the class said the Pledge of Allegiance, her stripes turned red, white, and blue, and she broke out in stars. So she's really kind of blending in with the flag, right? If she was standing nearby. The other kids thought this was great. One yelled out, "Let's see some purple polka dots." Sure enough, Camilla turned all purple polka dotty. Someone else shouted, "Checkerboard." and a pattern of squares covered her skin. Soon, everyone was calling out different shapes and colors, and poor Camilla was changing faster than you can change channels on a TV. How do you think she's feeling right now? That night, Mr. Harris, the school principal, called. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Cream," he said, "but I'm going to have to keep Camilla home from school. She's just too much of a distraction, and I've been getting calls from the other parents. They're afraid those stripes might be contagious." Think of contagious. When have you heard that word before? Maybe when you had a cold or you had a fever and your parents had said you're contagious, which means you can give it to somebody else. Camilla was so embarrassed. She couldn't believe that 2 days ago everyone liked her. Now nobody wanted to be in the same room as her. Her father tried to make her feel better. "Is there anything I can get you, sweetheart?" he asked. "No, thank you," sighed Camilla. But what she really wanted was a nice plate of lima beans. But she had been laughed at enough for one day. Do you think she should eat the lima beans? Let's find out. Would you eat the lima beans if it was a vegetable you really, really loved? Let's see," Dr. Bumble mumbled when Mr. Cream phoned the next day. "I think I better bring in the specialists. We'll be right over." About an hour later, Dr. Bumble arrived with 4 people in long white coats. He introduced them to the Creams. "This is Dr. Grop, Dr. Sponge, Dr. Cricket, and Dr. Young." By the way, do you think David Shannon picked some pretty fun names for doctors? I think so too. Then the specialists went to work on Camilla. They squeezed and jabbed, tapped, and tested. It was very uncomfortable. "Well, it's not the mumps," concluded Dr. Grop. "Or the measles," said Dr. Sponge. "Definitely not the chicken pox," put in Dr. Cricket. "Or a sunburn," said Dr. Young. "Try these," said the specialists. They each handed her a bottle filled with different colored pills. "Take one of each before bed," said Dr. Grop. Then they filed out the front door, followed by Dr. Bumble. So now she's got all these pills she might have to take for something they don't know what to do or why she's getting this way. What's your prediction? Why do you think she's changing colors? Oh my goodness, look at her now. What did she turn into? A pill. That night, Camilla took her medicine. It was awful. When she woke up the next morning, she did feel a little different. But when she got dressed, her clothes didn't fit right. She looked in the mirror, and there, staring back at her, was a giant multicolored pill with her face on it. Oh my goodness. Dr. Bumble rushed over as soon as Mrs. Cream called. But this time, instead of the specialist, he brought the experts. The Dr. Gourd and Dr. Mellon were the finest scientific minds in the land. Let me pause for a second. Did David Shannon use some funny names again? A gourd is like a pumpkin or a squash or it's kind of a vegetable. And then Dr. Mellon. Once again, Camilla was poked and prodded, looked and listened to. The experts wrote down lots of numbers, then huddled together and whispered. Dr. Gourd finally spoke. "It might be a virus," and he announced with authority. Suddenly, little virus balls appeared all over Camilla. "Or possibly some form of bacteria," said Mr. Mellon. Up out little squiggly little bacteria balls. "Or it could be a fungus," added Dr. Gourd. Instantly, Camilla was covered with different colored fungus blotches. The experts looked at Camilla and then at each other. We need to go over these numbers and we will get back to you." The experts didn't have a clue, much less a cure. A cure is when they think of something that can help. By now, the TV news had found out about Camilla. Reporters from every channel was outside her home, telling the story of the bizarre case of the incredible changing kid. Soon, a huge crowd was camped out on the front lawn. Oh my goodness. Poor Camilla. Could you imagine? The creams were swamped with all kinds of remedies from psychologists, allergists, herbalists, nutritionists, psychics, an old medicine man, a guru, and even a veterinarian. Remember, that's a doctor to help dogs and cats. Each so-called cure only added to poor Camilla's strange appearance until it was hard to even recognize her. She sprouted roots and berries and crystals and feathers and a long furry tail, but nothing worked. One day, oh my goodness, are you looking at this illustration? What is going on? A woman who called herself an environmental therapist. Environment means what's around you, right, in your surroundings. Claimed she could cure Camilla. Close your eyes, she said. Breathe deeply and become one with the room. I wish you hadn't said that, Camilla groaned. Slowly, she started to melt into the walls of her room. Her bed became a mouth. Her nose was a dresser, and 2 paintings were her eyes. The therapist screamed, "Ah!" and ran from the house. "What are we going to do?" cried Mrs. Cream. "It just keeps getting worse and worse." She began to sob. Sob is like crying. Oh, oh. At that moment, Mr. Cream heard a quiet little knock at the door. He opened it, and there stood an old woman who was just as plump and sweet as a strawberry. "Excuse me," she said brightly, "but I think I can help." Do you think the parents are going to let her in and let her help? They've tried everything else, right? She went into Camilla's room and looked around. "My goodness," she said with a shake of her head. "What we have seen here is a bad case of the stripes. One of the worst I've ever seen." She pulled a container of small green beans from her bag. "Here," she said, "these might do the trick." "Are those magic beans?" asked Mrs. Cream. "Oh my, no," replied the kind old woman. "There's no such thing. These are just plain old lima beans. I bet you'd like some, wouldn't you?" she asked Camilla. Camilla wanted a big, heaping plate full of lima beans more than just about anything, but she was still afraid to admit it. "Yuck," she said. "No one likes lima beans, especially me." "Oh dear," the old woman said sadly. "I guess I was wrong about you." She put the lima beans back into her bag and started toward the door. Camilla watched the old woman walk away. Those beans would taste so good, and being laughed at for eating them was nothing compared to what she'd already been going through. She finally couldn't stand it. Wait, she cried. "The truth is, I really love lima beans." "I thought so," the old woman said with a smile. She took a handful of beans, plopped them in her mouth. Said Camilla. It's probably better than those pills she had to take, right? Oh, look at what happens. Suddenly, the branches, feathers, and squiggly tails began to disappear. Then the whole room swirled around. When it stopped, there stood Camilla, and everything was back to normal. "I'm cured," she shouted. "Yes," said the old woman. "I knew the real you was in there somewhere." She patted Camilla on the head. Then she went outside and vanished into the crowd. Afterward, Camilla wasn't quite the same. Some of the kids at school said she was weird, but she didn't care a bit. She ate all the lima beans she wanted, and she never had a touch of the stripes again. But I love how they're bow. Maybe just a little reminder to be who she is and not worry so much about what other people think, right? I had fun reading with you.